is Joyce Loza. I'm from the 𝐈𝐧𝐭𝐞𝐫𝐿 Transfrontier program. I'm based in Midma in KwaZulu-Natal. Yes, okay, thank you. I was looking for that slide. I'm also presenting within the context of water security in a transfrontier conservation area context. And the transfrontier I'm within is the 𝐈𝐧𝐭𝐞𝐫𝐿 Transfrontier program, and that is a collaboration between Lesotho and South Africa. I'm glad that the previous speakers have actually laid a very good foundation for me. The strategic water sources areas fall within my context, and also the context of ecological infrastructure. The study I'm presenting now is a research that was funded by the Water Research Commission, and it's been a 2-year study that was done in collaboration with various partners. As you can see there, we've got the academia, the 𝐷𝐨𝐻𝐿, the water research, the CSIR, SANBI, and also the National Department of Agriculture. Those were the collaborators of the research, and my organization was identified as a project leader. I will try to summarize as much. It was a 2-year study. It's not easy to put it in 15 minutes. If you can go to the next slide, please. This is the team, a project team, and the study was completed early this year. In March 2023, it was approved by the WRC. If you can go to the next slide. I think you've seen the title. It's the adaptive, looking at investigating the adaptive capacity of 2 communities in 2 catchments, river catchments, the 𝐈𝐧𝐭𝐞𝐫𝐿 River catchment and also 𝐈𝐧𝐭𝐫𝐿 River catchment to climate-related challenges to groundwater. And just to provide the background, this was done within the context of, for example, we know clearly, and this has been clearly articulated in various IDPs, that our district municipalities are under a lot of strain when it comes to water service delivery. And there is a huge backlog in terms of delivering water through the bulk water infrastructure, more especially in the rural communities. And that has been cited in the IDPs of both the 𝐈𝐧𝐭𝐞𝐫𝐿 district and also the 𝐈𝐧𝐭𝐻𝐿 district municipality. The aims of the study was to co-development of innovative strategies and frameworks to respond to climate-related changes in groundwater supply, and also the strengthening of decision-making support of governance structures and enhancement of adaptive capacity of communities to climate-related changes in the water supply of springs. We also undertook a review of available data, what data is available, and where are information gaps. Is there any protection that's currently happening on springs? And also looked at augmenting and updating available data, and also evaluating the relevance of social, cultural. We know that there are social, cultural beliefs regarding springs, so we looked at that as well. Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, yeah. Yes, okay, so the study area, 2 catchments. These are mainly, the study was conducted in mainly rural settings in 2 catchments, 𝐈𝐧𝐭𝐞𝐫𝐿 River catchment on the Eastern Cape and also 𝐈𝐧𝐭𝐞𝐫𝐿 River catchment in KZN. And just to highlight as well that these are also part of the identified 22 strategic water sources areas that Bianca referred to. And obviously important in the context of water security and water provision. In addressing the aims of the study, we, in terms of acquiring the data, and also analyzing the available data and looking at the data gaps and updating and augmenting available data. We sourced data from various stakeholders. Some of the data was acquired from our NGOs, and it was collected over a couple of years in environmental rural solutions in the Eastern Cape, and data was collected through WWF with funding from Green Trust and the Nedbank. And in addition to that, we also had a collaboration with the Presidential Youth Employment Intervention through funding acquired through SANBI, and employed 𝐸𝐴𝐶hMs, 45 𝐸𝐴𝐶hMs that also assisted in terms of collecting and updating the data. And we also had collaboration with a UNESCO project that was funded by the government of Norway. And those 𝐸𝐴𝐶hMs from that funding also assisted with collecting data. In terms of the type of data that was collected, we looked at where exactly the location of the springs, and also the type of the spring and the nature of the spring. And all of the data was stored locally in a geodatabase file, and there was analysis done to the data. These are some of the variables we looked at in terms of collecting the data. A method for collecting data and analyzing the existing governance systems and looking at where exactly are the gaps so we can make recommendations. That was done through participatory action research. There was data collection through focus groups. We had workshops, we had online surveys, we had Google Forms. There was a lot of interaction. There was also in-person interviews and door-to-door collection of data by our 𝐸𝐴𝐶hMs. And we also had stakeholder mapping. We deemed this as necessary as part of our status quo analysis, to get a sense of who are the role players on the ground, what are their roles, and who is missing in the landscape. I think similarly to the study by Bianca and the colleagues. And to analyze the data, we used a platform called the 𝐵𝐚𝐫 platform, and we looked at the various interest groups, civil society, the academia, the practitioners, implementers, planners, the community, and the different governance structures within the community. This is just a picture of some of the interactions. And we also engaged a lot of youth in our studies, given also the public Presidential Youth Employment Initiative. And these are some of the also data collection processes we engaged in. We also had site visits and collected data through that. Just presenting some of the findings. I would not be able to present everything, but the study is available to access the full report. We've got some of the findings, that is the location of the springs, and I think you can clearly see that most of the springs are at the foothills of the mountains, hence also supplying the communities that are at the foothills of the Drakensberg. That is in Matatiele. This one is 𝐸𝐴𝐶hMba. Similarly to that, those are close to the foothills at quite high elevation. And in terms of the nature of the spring, we looked at whether, and just to remind you, the data was sourced. This is the data that was already available, that was augmented with data that was collected by the 𝐸𝐴𝐶hMs. So there were springs. We looked at whether the springs were formally protected, or unprotected. And you can see that those are the trends in the Matatiele local municipality. In the 𝐸𝐴𝐶hMba local municipality, the trends are not that much different, but I just want us to go to this slide. Looking at the nature of springs, you can see clearly that in the Eastern Cape, there's more protection of springs than we have in KZN. But the implications are in the next slide. And this is the type of protection. Some is just rudimentary and it rusts. It's not very formal. but some of the protection is formal. If you can see this one, it's formal and it's also well developed. You can see there's a tap as well at the bottom there. And those are some of the springs you find in the Eastern Cape. Okay, and in terms of the water quality, we also looked at the water quality based on the existing data. There was no testing of water quality within the study because of the short term of the study. So yeah, in water quality here, we looked at the variables, whether the water was acceptable, average, or not acceptable. And that was the case in the 𝐷𝐴𝐚𝐿𝐴 municipality and in the 𝐷𝐨𝐴𝐚𝐿𝐴 under 𝐷𝐴𝐚𝐿𝐴 municipality. We looked at that was the status, the same variables. There was not much data for the other variable. So in terms of, if you can look at this, in terms of the water quality, in the 𝐷𝐴𝐚𝐿𝐴 municipality, the water is mainly not, you can see it's mainly not acceptable. And in the 𝐷𝐴𝐚𝐿𝐴 municipality, the results show that the water is mainly acceptable. But I know where the question would be, and this is where it is. In relation to the protection of the springs, whether the spring is protected or not, and in relation to the quality, the results depicted that if you can see the unprotected springs in the 𝐷𝐴𝐚𝐿𝐴 municipality show that mainly water was mainly of unacceptable quality. But if you look at the 𝐷𝐴𝐚𝐿𝐴 municipality, with the unprotected springs, the water quality was mainly average. Okay, I think this is where other research can be done as well, so that to clarify that, because we would have expected the opposite, but that has been the findings of this analysis. And in terms of stakeholder mapping, these are the stakeholders that were mapped in the two catchments. And we also looked at who are the implementers, who are the researchers, and we followed the value chain to see who are the funders of the interventions in the catchment. And who's got the most influence, who are the policymakers, are they interacting in the existing forums. In also looking at governance issues as one of our aims, I'd like to just summarize it by looking mainly on my, I think we all understand that, someone mentioned it earlier, that we do have legislated catchment management forums. However, those are not functional. So that was one of the findings. There are catchment management forums. The issue we are having is that those are not functional. We also have our district municipalities, which are mandated as, according to our policy, as water services authorities. They're responsible for water service delivery and also sanitation. However, there are issues even there. There is also poor capacity and poor resourcing of the district municipalities, hence the water service delivery backlogs. There are actors that are involved in protection of the springs and upgrading of the springs. And as observed through our interactions, most of the protection is actually happening on the Eastern Cape side, and it's mainly done by NGOs with the traditional authorities. Unlike on the KZN side, there's not much protection that's currently happening. And some of the protection is done by the district municipality, which is 𝐷𝐴𝐚𝐿𝐴, and also the NGOs. And in terms of other forums that are existing in the landscapes, we do have unlegislated forums. In the Eastern Cape, we've got �ziMvubu Catchment Partnership Forum. That is not legislated. It's a platform for interaction by various forums. In the Eastern Cape, in KZN, we've got emerging forums that are also established through partnerships with the various partners that are also engaging in water security issues. We have also identified that the engagement of the local community and also the traditional authorities is important in terms of strengthening governance in these catchments. The voice of the community becomes pertinent in ensuring that issues that are of priority to the community reach the IDPs. And we also established that the issue of spring protection is not in the top agenda of the district municipalities, and that is something that needs to be addressed. There are other water sources that are available. However, the issue of maintenance, continuous maintenance of infrastructure that has been established has been a serious pandemic for almost all institutions. So there's usually no funding to maintain this ecological infrastructure going forward. We also discovered that the communities and other role players are aware of what exactly are the vulnerabilities to ecological infrastructure to springs, and these are some of the issues that they identified as the vulnerabilities. In terms of direct climate-related changes, they did highlight that silting was mostly a challenge to water resources, to springs. And in direct climate-related changes, they did identify that contamination by animals was much of an issue, and cited that they drink at the feet of cattle. And public participation, as mentioned earlier, is pertinent, but it does seem to be non-existent, and that is something that was cited by a lot of participants. And also, groundwater quality monitoring, it seems to be much of an issue as well, and 32% of the participants mentioned that that was non-existent. Recommendations and policy considerations. There were 6 themes that emerged from the study. We need formalized rural groundwater governance through incorporating spring protection into IDPs. Importance of recognizing the role of traditional systems in groundwater management, and also the need for capacity building and awareness of the communities and other role players, and need for research to determine spring water's microbiological and chemical quality, and the need for consideration of socio-cultural benefits, because some of the springs, the communities would rather not have those springs disturbed for social and cultural purposes. And we need to ensure that we adopted an integrated catchment management approach to improve water quality. And in conclusion, water is a basic human need, and it is also a human rights issue. Easy access to clean water is a very urgent issue, and one that really needs to be tackled as soon as possible. But we also need to be realistic. Springs alone cannot provide all water for all water needs. So there is a need to make sure that there is sustainable maintenance of infrastructure that has been established, such as the boreholes. Financial and human capacity commitment to maintaining this ecological infrastructure and built infrastructure is pertinent. Yes, so to acknowledge the funders, the Water Research Commission, and also the research team and the partners. And we also received ethical clearance from 𝐷𝐭𝐬𝐺 for the study. Thank you very much. And the document, the final study report is accessible from that link. Thank you.